Huntsman World Senior Games for about 2.5 decades. It's been a long, long time that he's been associated with us. In fact, Ralph has been associated with the Huntsman World Senior Games longer than my opponent in wrestling has been alive. So, Ralph, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, it feels pretty good.
Feels good.
I'm glad to be a part of it. Yeah, this will be my 25th year of helping out and making the games into a happening.
Well, that's awesome. 25 amazing years, and Ralph really has been an integral and an important part of each one of the races that he's been a part of, and we appreciate that. But we're gonna get into kind of your role with the games in just a minute. But before we get into that, before we start with that, let's get into something else here. Ralph, you actually used to be a competitive cyclist. Is that correct?
Yes, as they say, back in the day. When I was a young guy, like we were talking about, I raced at a pro Cat 1 level and was former state champion and won quite a few stage races in my day.
Awesome. So according to my notes, you started racing in about 1968. Does that sound about right?
That's correct.
That sounds about right. So what was it that kind of got you started? You were going along and you said, hey, I'm going to be a Cat 1 cyclist. I mean, how do you get to that point, and how did you get started in the sport of cycling?
Well, I got started back when I was in junior high school, and there was a group called American Youth Hostels, AYH, and they had some high school and junior high rides. And a couple of my friends were going on those, and I went on those. And then when I got in the 7th grade, my dad bought me an English racer bicycle. It was like a 10-speed entry-level bike, and then I just started riding that. I was also doing a lot of surfing and that sort of thing back in that time. And then when the waves were bad, I'd ride my bicycle, and then one thing led to another, and doing overnight trips with the AYH and things like that. And then they took me, the racing club comes around, like San Diego Bicycle Club, and they said, hey, you're pretty good. Maybe you should try bicycle racing. And so then I started as a junior racer in 68, and I've been involved with bicycling ever since.
So you just kind of started out as a recreational rider where you'd go with a club and just kind of do rides, not necessarily races. Is that right?
That's exactly right. Yep, just ride 25-mile rides around the city, around the county, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm.
And then someone kind of was paying attention and saw that you were pretty fast and you had some good stamina, and they said, "Hey, let's get you into the competitions."
Yep, that's exactly right. And one of my mentors is a longtime member of the Huntsman Games, and that's Bob Bergen, and he races there every year I think now he's in the 85 division.
Wow. And he's kind of the one
we've been cycling together that long.
He's kind of the one who kind of brought you into the competitive arena.
He took me to my first bicycle race in 1968. Wow. Yeah, he sure did.
That's great, Ralph. That's awesome. So you've been, you got involved in racing, and I'm sure that you've raced a number of competitions and different events. Is there any one that kind of stands out as the best memory, the favorite event to compete in?
Well, it would definitely be long, hard road races. I can remember doing some stage races. I remember doing a race in Colorado. It was the Aspen Alpine Cup. It was a kind of a prelude to the Coors Classic. And I remember one time going over Vail Pass and finishing in Vail in a snowstorm, and all these guys were quitting and all that. But from all my years and experience of riding here in San Diego and riding in our mountains when it's snowing and everything, I just thought it was cool. And first one into Vail was a pair of $200 skis, and I said, "Well, that'll do. I want those skis." So
I can use those right now.
Down, and I was always kind of big, a tall cyclist. For cycling, I'm kind of on the bigger side, so anything on the downhill, that's where I can excel. And so I did. Won the sprint, got the skis.
Wow, what a great story. Now, just for those listeners who may not be familiar with the sport of cycling, explain for us what you mean when you say a stage race.
Well, a stage race, that's a multi-day race. Most people have heard of the Tour de France.
Right.
And so it's a day after day after day event.
And so when you were competitive in your cycling, when you were out there competing, is that style of racing that you did the most? You would mostly do stage races, or was that just one example that kind of stood out to you?
No, I tried to do every stage race as I could. I did back in the day. We had the Tour of California, and then you guys have the Tour of Utah now over there now, and then I did the Tour of Mexico, and it was stage racing it's kind of like the ultimate in road racing is stage racing, and I excelled. It seemed like the longer, the harder, the more days it was, the better I could do.
Well, you're just an animal. What can we say? You're just an animal, Ralph.
Yeah, the animal.
So what happened that you ended your competitive racing days?
Well, I raced for about 10 years, and I said to myself, well, what am I going to do for a living? And so then I went and I got a California teaching credential in industrial arts, which is things like woodworking, metalworking, and graphic arts. And at that time, they were also introducing something called No Child Gets Left Behind. And so what happened was I went to try to get a job, and they were laying off 20 guys that had 20 years of experience here in San Diego Unified. Oh, man, I'm not going to be able to get a job at that. So all the guys that would have normally gone to those things, they don't get left behind anymore. They quit. And so I'm, oh, God.
Wow.
So then I said, well, maybe I can make a go with bike racing. So I started putting on bicycle races and then doing like what I do at Huntsman, providing services to bicycle races. And I used to be the director of up to 12 races a year, and then I would announce at other people's. Now I'm the director 1 or 2 times a year, and then I spend every weekend from January until the Huntsman at bike races, supplying my race services like I do at Huntsman.
Wow! So you said, hey, there's something out there for me, and I'm gonna get into organizing these things. Now, I'm assuming that most of these races that you've organized in the past have been in California. Is that correct?
Yes, mostly in California. Although I do events in Utah, Arizona, Idaho, and I've done Oregon, Nevada. Mostly the western United States.
And those are events that you're announcing at, or that you actually are the organizer for?
Mostly those are ones I'm the announcer for. The organizing I do here in San Diego.
Awesome. Well, that sounds great. Well, let me ask you a question. Since you've been in the industry for so long, what kind of changes have you seen in the cycling industry, or even in the health and fitness industry, that you've watched since you got involved in the late 60s, and here we are 2014? What have you seen over the years that you think stands out as the biggest changes?
Well, what I feel the biggest changes are, of course, the technology, especially in cycling. Like back in my day, everything was steel. Well, now everything's carbon fiber, high tech, and they've got devices for this, and they've got measurements for that. And we didn't have any of that stuff. We just rode, and if it felt hard, well, we'd go a little bit harder. If it felt easy, we'll go a little easy. We didn't need a meter. We didn't need a dial, and we didn't need a heart rate, all that stuff. Now it's so technical. But the thing that I think that stands out the most for me is that nowadays the adults, the parents, are in better shape than the kids. And in my day, there's no way my dad was going to beat me. Like you were talking about earlier, in my day, the kids and the young adults were always better than their parents. But that's not so now. I think the adults are better than the kids, and I definitely see that with the people that come to Huntsman. I bet their children can't beat them at the events they do.
That wouldn't surprise me. This is the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life on Fox News 96.7 FM and 1450 AM. We're talking with Ralph Elliot out of San Diego, California. Ralph, now that you're a working man, that you have to work for a living, do you still get on the bike occasionally?
Yeah, I try to ride. I try to ride 3, 4, 5 times a week, mainly just coffee rides, and then on the weekend, on Saturday, I'll do a ride with the club guys. But usually Sundays, I'm always in an event working, so that makes it a little bit tough. I don't do any competition anymore because it's too much work. It's not such a, and I'm not complaining whatsoever. I'm one of the few people who can say, I love my job. I can't wait to get to my job. I can't wait to get to the next race, and that's pretty good for someone who's been working the same thing for 35 years. They can't wait to get to the next day.
And that's something we see here at the Huntsman World Senior Games. We see the love that you have for your games, but something that I've noticed about you here in town, you'll come and when you're doing one of the events, you'll take your truck out, you'll set up, you'll bring your truck back when you're done, but after that, if you go somewhere, what's your mode of transportation?
Oh, I ride my bicycle everywhere.
You do. I've seen you ride your bike around town. And it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, St. George is a good community for doing that. And, everything's fairly local. And plus, I stay right downtown in Old St. George. I guess they call it Ancestor Square. And that reminds me a lot.
You're right downtown.
Because, see, I've been going to St. George, for my whole life. And I remember when just that little triangle down there, that was St. George.
Yeah.
And so that's where I stay. And everything's within a bike commute. You can get to anything within 10 minutes. And it's similar to where I live in downtown San Diego, so I guess I'm a downtown homeboy.
Well, that's why you wear your pants so low.
Oh, no. We don't do that. We don't go there.
Okay.
Not that kind of homeboy, right? Well, that's awesome, and that's one of the things that that I've noticed, and that I think our athletes and maybe even residents of the community notice. Your passion for the sport and your commitment to it, in that it is a lifestyle for you. It's not just something that you do for your job, but you actually get on your bike and ride it around and take advantage of the biking trails and use it to get yourself around. And I think that's great. Here's just a interesting fact, Ralph. I don't know if you've heard this or if you're aware of it, but they have found that there are roughly 1 billion bicycles in the world, and that's about twice as many as there are motor vehicles. Now, of course, we're looking at the world as a whole. We're here in the States. We're kind of used to jumping in our car, and we've had the great American love affair with our cars forever. In other countries around the world, the bicycle really is a mode of transportation, but it's kind of making a comeback here in the States as well, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. I've seen, when I go to St. George, they've got a beautiful trail system there, and like I say, everything in St. George is only a 10 or 15-minute bicycle ride away. Well, if you think about it, it takes you that long to get out and start up your car, open up the garage or whatever, and then you got to wait in traffic and lights and everything. Where these bike trails that we have in St. George, they're so cool because they avoid all that stuff, and a lot of times they go under the road. And if you're not really a cyclist, you don't even know they're there. But it's a great way to get around St. George. I love the system that you got there.
Well, a lot of communities are building their urban trails like we have here, and it's really it's really improving the quality of life for so many cities to have the urban trails where you can ride your bikes in the city, not worry about traffic. So I think that's pretty exciting. Now, Ralph, you've been at the games for so many years. I just want to know, what is your favorite aspect or event or thing? What's your favorite event that takes place during the games?
During the games, my favorite event, well, my favorite event at the games is the opening ceremonies.
Yeah. Well, why?
Well, I've been going, like I said, this will be my 25th year, and every single year I go to those opening ceremonies, and a lot of people, they kind of go, well, Ralph, why do you always go to those opening ceremonies? I go, hey, man, you got to go to these opening ceremonies. It's just like going to the Olympics. They got skydivers, they've got fireworks, and they've got every single child or young adult that lives in southern Utah is out there singing and dancing, and it's just the greatest little show. I can't believe what a great show it is, and the reason I go is it always makes me feel good that, hey, you know what? Here in southern Utah, America is still okay.
And that's a big 10 for. We have to agree with you. And just so you know, the community has grown a little bit now, so it's not quite every young adult performing, but it's a goodly number, that's for sure.
It's a good
I know.
group.
I've seen the growth there, and I know Huntsman is a big part of why it has grown so much there. But it's still a beautiful, beautiful place.
Well, it is, and it's something that we're very proud of, and you've been a great advocate for the area and for the event in and of yourself, in inviting people to come and be a part of the Huntsman World Senior Games, and we definitely appreciate that. Let's talk just a little bit about your role with the games. We've mentioned that you're the announcer, but maybe just for a couple of minutes, walk us through what that means. Talk us through an average day on an average cycling event at the Huntsman World Senior Games, so we can get a picture of what it is that keeps you busy while you're here in town with us.
Yeah, okay, that's good, because basically, I get up when it's dark there. And then I go to the race site, and it takes me like 2 hours to set up all this stuff. I have a stage, a sound system, and all this flagging and stuff to make it look really nice. So I get there. I'm the first one that gets there. I build all this stuff. It takes about 2 hours. And then I do my race announcing, which is kind of like being a DJ. You let people know what's happening. You call the races. You turn the event into a happening. And then so I'm calling the race all day long and having a good old time and making sure that everybody else is having a good old time. Maybe even though I don't necessarily feel the best that day, but you'd never know it because it's all about having a good time. And then at the end of the day, once we've given away all the prizes, all the awards, and all the medals, well, then I got to spend 2 hours tearing it all down, and sometimes I got to do that even in the rain. Oh, I hate that. And so
we don't
I'm
like
the
the rain
first
either.
one there, and I'm the last one to leave every single day.
And Ralph, I happen to know from firsthand experience that you worry about your equipment to the point that you don't want anybody else helping you move it in case it might get dropped or damaged. I know I've offered to help before, and I know you're a stronger man than I, but I'm a fairly good sized man, and you still turn down my help.
Well, I'm sorry that I did that because, now that I'm getting older, I've done it so many times, I would never turn down anyone's help that wanted to come out and help me. That would be a beautiful thing.
You hope you haven't burned a bridge or anything there, right?
No, Ralph.
No.
I've been at your cycling events, and one of the things that I enjoy is the nicknames that you give people. Can you share some of the more creative or clever or just entertaining nicknames? The one that comes to mind is when Frank Pierce was remember that when we were up in Enterprise? And Frank.
Oh, Hollywood Frank?
Hollywood Frank. Do you remember the nickname you gave him? Not Hollywood Frank, but you called him Wrong Way Frank because he went the wrong direction for a little while.
Oh, that's right. Wrong way, Frank. Yeah, well, that's I've kind of had a knack with that nicknaming, and just again, my motto is it's not whether you win or lose, but how much fun you have. Yeah, we're all there to win and everything, but we're also there to have a good time, and so I really emphasize that. And if I can see everything, or if I can maybe I can twist that a little bit so that it's humorous, I'll take those liberties.
And you do a great job. You really do. It's a lot of fun.
Thanks.
I agree with that. So, Ralph, here's a important question for you. What would you tell somebody who is on the bubble of whether or not they might want to compete in the Huntsman World Senior Games or in any senior event? What would you do? What would you tell them to say, hey, it's gonna be okay. Give it your best shot. What advice would you have for someone who's been in the industry, seen it all from the sideline as an announcer as well as a racer? What would you do to help somebody get over that hump and get in the race?
Well, the beautiful thing about the Huntsman World Senior Games is you don't have to be, like in cycling, we have what's called the novice division. That's for brand new people that have never really raced. Maybe they've ridden the bike trails already. You can come on out. We call it Division 3. It's for really novice, for beginner type people. So you're grouped together with A, people of your age, and B, people of your ability. And then we have Division 2, which is kind of like a public for people who do like fun rides and the community rides and stuff like that. And again, the same thing, your group of people about your ability. And then we have, of course, Division 1, which is the licensed guys. These are the guys that race on a weekly basis. And many of them have been doing it for a long time, but some of them are newer licensed. So the more experienced guys that are really serious, they go in Division 1. So there's something for everyone to get involved, from the very beginner to the most experienced. And that's why sometimes I keep saying, God, we got to get, because we have so many experienced guys here in Southern California, but the season is so long. I'm trying to get them, come on over to Huntsman. It's just a great event. You got 4 road races, and you got the triathlon, then you got the mountain biking, and there's something for everybody.
Well, awesome. Thank you. We kind of feel the same way. Obviously, we're a little biased, but we're pretty proud of our event here as well. And like I said at the beginning, one of my favorite aspects of the games is that fact that you can step onto the field of competition, whatever it is, whether it's cycling or it's softball or basketball or volleyball or pickleball or whatever it happens to be. And for the most part, you're going to be competing against someone who is at about your level. And that raises the medal count for us, and we like that. We like people to go home winners and successful and feeling good about their participation and their involvement with the game. So that's awesome. So we've got just one more very quick, brief question. for you to answer. In your opinion, Ralph, what's the value of competing in an event like the Huntsman World Senior Games?
Well, the value of competing in these events is, it's all about you. And I think if you become a better person because you're doing this, and also the camaraderie and the friendships you make at this event, to me, that is more important than anything. It's because you're with like people, you're having a great time, and really, that's what life is all about. Again, it's not what you win or lose, it's how much fun you have. So, have some fun with your bros, and that's what it's about.
Perfect. Couldn't have said it better myself. And that's about all the time that we have today, Ralph. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Ralph.
Hey, my pleasure.
And don't forget to join us next Thursday and